enhancing business intelligence with technology, driving business process optimization. How are artificial intelligence and machine learning changing the brand consumer relationships for retailers? And how can we build an impactful AI framework? What should be the appropriate strategy? Hello and welcome to AI and Cloud Summit, a virtual summit brought in collaboration with Dell Technologies. Joining me in this conversation today, we've got Saurabh Thukral, the Senior Specialist at Niti Aayog, Mr. Kuriyan Xavier, Director Solution and Alliances at Dell EMC India, Mr. Venkat Varadarajan, the Head of Cloud and Digital, Intel India, and Mr. Kumar Rajagopalan, CEO, Retailers Association, and I am Reema Tendulkar from CNBC TV 18. Gentlemen, a warm welcome to this discussion, and thank you very much for taking the time out and speaking to us. Venkat, the last 2 years were all about establishing the right infrastructure to ensure business continuity. We had to get all the employees enabled to work from home. But now as we look towards the future and progress towards economic recovery, what is the right technology infrastructure to drive innovation through artificial intelligence and machine learning?
When you think about digital transformation, there are multiple pillars and multiple enabling elements to that journey. At Intel, we broadly see 4 major pillars for the digital transformation for any organization. At the core of it, at the backbone for this is the cloud. Cloud as an operating model where you can try newer ideas, fail fast, and then try again and succeed and go to market faster. On top of cloud, the first major trend we see is AI. AI is there everywhere, right? From the app you use to order food to the site you use for shopping, AI is there everywhere. According to O'Reilly survey, 85% of organizations have already implemented some sort of AI in their organizations. The second major trend we see is 5G. As you know, many telecom companies in India have already done trials on 5G. So with 5G, you get much faster speed of data and at a much lower latency. What that means is for organizations, you will have newer and newer use cases. It can be immersive video, or it can be the industrial robots, connected robots at the edge, right? So there are multiple use cases that's possible. So as an end user, as an organization, you should start thinking about what are the use cases that you can do with 5G. Third and last is the intelligent edge, as we call. What that means is as the data, more and more data goes to the edge, there needs to be computing at the edge to process the data, to have more intelligent at the edge. Like this is what we call intelligent edge. So the cloud, on top of the cloud AI, and then 5G, with 5G, more and more compute going towards the edge. These are all the three broad elements enabled by cloud as the fourth major backbone that we see happening in the industry for this decade.
Okay, so AI, 5G, as well as edge computing and cloud, of course, remains the backbone infrastructure. Kuriyan, technology is always adopted to solve a business problem. Now, you have many clients in your fold. Can you tell us some of the interesting solutions which have had AI, ML at its core?
Reema, there's a bunch of stuff that's going on as far as the AI, and every time one of us interacts with the internet, we're probably already touching some AI system in that's out there. If you're browsing an e-commerce portal, in all probability, the recommendation engine that's sitting below that tells you, have you also looked at this, is running off an AI engine. Now the large web scalers have always used AI to analyze data, to be able to do better at reaching out to customers. That technology that was developed largely for the big players that are out there is starting to get utilized by anyone that has data, really. If you look at video surveillance, AI has penetrated quite significantly. If you look at factory automation, it could be something as simple as safety, to make sure that someone's not got his hand inside a machine while it's working. Or it could be something as advanced as saying, look at a person's face and understand the sentiment to be able to know whether a worker is going to work efficiently or not. Um, and that's just video. There's other sides to it, right? You can use data of inventory to go and make sure that your inventory is right. You can use data from a delivery service to make sure that that a delivery van is taking the right route depending on the number of places that he needs to go stop at. So the utilization of data to be able to make those decisions is starting to become more pervasive. We are starting to see it in a wide variety of industries. We're starting to see it in pretty much every walk of life, and it's largely improving quality of life and quality of business across the board.
You spoke about many solutions, but I think the one which stood out is employers able to gauge the sentiment of employees by watching the video. That's a bit scary. It reminds me of 1984, the book Big Brother is watching you. But Kumar, both Krishna, Venkat as well as Kuriyan spoke about how AI is pervasive, especially when it comes to shopping. In fact, they decide our movie choices as well. And we've got that element of real-time personalization which has come in. Now, consumer has always been at the forefront of adopting technology. Can you tell us what your key observations are about using innovation?
Yeah, thank you. I think the stage has got set in terms of understanding what AI can do. As a consumer, I think a whole lot of change, and because I represent the retail industry, it's easier for me to talk about the consumer. The recommendation engine that was spoken about earlier is a very big boon for consumers. Imagine if you had to buy just one pen, and if you have to go online, you'll be inundated with so much of choices today that you'll find it difficult to make a very meaningful choice. Now, the advantage of having AI is that it can really zero down on what is the kind of thing that would be useful for you as a consumer. Similarly, a consumer is looking at getting what they want. They are looking at making sure that it comes to them as fast as possible. And it is also that the consumer wants to be able to get all kinds of advantages that will go along with doing any kind of buying. Now, all this gets enhanced because of AI. And the pandemic has helped retailers in ensuring that they get digitally better in taking care of consumers. I think end of the day, it's about retaining the consumer, making relevance to consumers, and therefore creating value to the consumers. From a retailer standpoint, things have also changed because they are able to use AI for multiple things. One, to make sure they are giving what they want to the customer at the time that they want. Second part is that they are able to interact with their entire supply chain to make things available, reduce wastage at the same time, and make sure that they can create newer and innovative product based upon what and how customers are reacting to various offerings. They don't need to necessarily manufacture everything and keep all the time, and this really reduces the inventory levels. It also helps them in collaborating. I mean, we talked about how the food companies are working. Now the food companies can collaborate with the supermarket, can collaborate with other companies that's possibly going to take care of travel. All kinds of companies can now collaborate to make sure that consumers' lives get much better. So I think they're going to see lots more collaborative efforts as day goes forward because of these superb AI abilities and the collaboration abilities that the digital technologies can bring in.
So that is what we've seen up until now. What about in the future? Now, you already spoke about automation and personalization in a way having become mainstream when it comes to the consumer facing businesses. What is next when it comes to using AI as well as ML to drive innovation?
I think the biggest part of what's going to happen is going to be at the back end. Because, like I said, if you want to create the right product at the right time and give it to the right customer, reduce wastages, it cannot be done by one company or two companies or three companies. It's about a complete collaboration of various companies coming together to make the right kind of things happen for consumers. So this is the large part of what will happen as days go forward, I'm sure. And I'm sure the other panelists should bring in other aspects to this. But this is not necessarily only about internet shopping, and I'll need to bring this to fore. I think it's going to change the way we shop, irrespective of whichever channel we go to, and that's where the beauty is. Kumar remains the same, irrespective of whether he's going online, he's going offline, he's going to see as seen on TV kind of shopping networks, or somebody who's going to call up and tell me what's available on just telephones, because that individual is now known, and the ability to create value around an individual for the purpose of that individual can get enhanced because of AI. And that I don't think any other technology could have easily wrapped around for them. That ability to find that Kumar at that mood and to create that right kind of item for that Kumar in that mood is what is going to happen with this kind of technologies. And we'll have to wait and watch. I think eventually, I'd hopes to, that as soon as you think you need something, you should be able to get it at your place wherever it is that you want. Now that would be the ultimate. We'll have to wait and watch. I'm sure there are things happening around this, but that's where things are going to go to. I'm very sure.
Sir, we just heard the enterprise point of view. From a government standpoint, can you talk about the innovations that we're seeing? Now, Niti Aayog is promoting a culture of innovation and entrepreneurship. India has the aspiration to be $1 trillion digital economy. Where have we seen AI adoption at the government level?
So from a government point of view, we are looking for adoption of AI technology for citizen services. The Honorable Prime Minister has the vision of minimum government, maximum governance. Emerging technology can play a very important role to achieve this vision. We are seeing use cases of all the emerging technologies like AI, ML, IoT, and blockchain in the sector of education, healthcare, and agriculture. AI technologies can be used in precision agriculture, quality assaying, marketing linkages, and agri credit and insurance for the agriculture sector. In education, low tech interventions and personalized learning can help in improving learning outcomes. And we have many use cases of healthcare in like we can use AI enabled diabetics retinopathy validation. We can have measuring the weight of infant by taking images, and AI would predict what's the weight of that infant. And then we are able to AI can be used to create a biobank. So these are the potential of AI across the priority sectors, and the technology can be game changer there.
Okay, so AI is not going to be limited to just the online options or internet shopping. It's going to be pervasive even in the offline mode of shopping. And of course, we'll get some more color on how soon we can, reach there and the kind of innovation Dell as well as Intel can bring to achieve that. But I want to move on to another sector, and that is, healthcare. Because right now the need of the hour is clearly healthcare, as we all, all countries battle COVID. And India per se has had a problem of accessibility, affordability of quality healthcare. So here the use of technology can be a big disruptor as well as be a game changer. So Venkat, would you like to throw in your thoughts on using technology for the healthcare vertical in particular?
Yeah, absolutely. See, with healthcare, as you know, Reema, the number of doctors per thousand people in India, that ratio is quite low, right? So it is impossible for the medical system to reach each and every citizen in the country. So one example that we have worked with a company called Netra.ai, what we have done is with the retina scan, you can predict a diabetic eye issue. Okay, so now if you go to your eye clinic, it's easy for the doctor to find out, hey, are you going to get a eye issue or not, right? But if you expand the problem into millions and billion people across India, how do we reach them, right? If you just have a retina scan and this AI system can accurately predict what is the probability that you are going to get a diabetic vision issue, right? So this particular solution is scaling across the country. So like this, AI can be applied for problems at scale where you scan, analyze the image, and arrive at accuracy of prediction that is in many cases even higher than the human specialist. That is the area where we are focused on right now.
Reema, let me add a little bit to that as well. So in the medical field, there's a lot of companies that are doing some fairly cutting edge, right? whether it's breast cancer detection or like Venkat said about diabetes detection. But in COVID, for example, there are people that are looking at X-rays of lungs and saying how much what percentage of damage, and most of the time an AI algorithm, because it's seen so many millions, can have a fairly can sometimes have better accuracy than a radiologist or a doctor that's taking a look at this report. There was someone that I was talking to with regard to breast cancer detection. 93% is considered good with a radiologist, 93% accuracy, which effectively means that 7 in 100 the radiologists fail to detect it. And AI can be as much as 99.6% accurate, which is a big difference from what a typical radiologist is. So yeah, AI is not only going to get into those fields of detection, but it's also going to be able to be more accurate. Very often, it's not just making a decision. It's just marking off the areas which a radiologist needs to go and pay attention to. And in those cases, it simply makes the radiologist more effective. So big strides in the medical field coming.
No, there is no doubt, Kuriyan, that there is a lot of innovation. You all have enumerated some very interesting examples as well. But have we managed to apply it at scale right now, Kuriyan? And if not, what are the challenges?
Let me take a stab at that. So the problem that existed with AI was largely a problem of how to deliver the kind of compute that is required, right? And let me break that down for you. If you're looking at if you're looking at an image, or you're doing analysis of a medical image, you need to break that down, let's say, into 500,000 segments, and look at differences between that image and compare it to 5 million images that you've got in your that the AI has in its repository. That takes a lot of compute, and the biggest challenge to mass deployment has always been the availability of that compute. That problem is gone today. The compute available is more than what is required to run some very complex algorithms. On top of that, the software, the cloud and the cluster ecosystems that Venkat spoke about a little earlier, allow you to not just run it on one machine, but go run it on a set of 100 machines, and the technology exists to be able to go do that. The other problem was, how do you go store all of this and store it effectively? And that problem as well has been solved. So the technology barriers are gone today. The next barrier was a question of skill that's out there in the market. And if you had asked me this question 3 years ago, I would have told you that AI skill in the market today is extremely expensive. That's starting to fix as well. Colleges are running it in curriculums. We're helping colleges run it in teach as part of curriculums, and the availability of fairly good engineers that are able to use this data to create viable outcomes is also there. I think that the last barrier that we need to go and overcome is the one and which is why we say that we're at the cusp of a big expansion in AI, is because we are at the last stage right now to be able to identify the use case and to then implement on it.
Saurabh, can you share your thoughts on healthcare? Clearly, that is the need of the hour as India fights COVID. In what ways are technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning being applied in the healthcare sector, and any challenges that you see?
Like I was mentioning, AI can play a very important role in healthcare. And what Niti Aayog is doing is we are validating the AI technology on the ground. understanding what are the implementation challenges, what are the challenges faced by the stakeholders and ecosystem to really scale up the technology. In that aspect, we have taken up lot of pilots projects to understand how we can bring the technology to mainstream. We are doing pilots for AI enabled diabetics retinopathy, and here we have seen the challenges that the machine will help the doctors and the nurses, but at the same time we need to also ensure that the digital literacy is there at the hospital to really use those AI applications. We need to also ensure that we have good support system to to resolve if there are any issues while using that machine. So we would need a presence of engineers. At the same time, we need to also ensure that the basic infrastructure of electricity and internet is available at all the PSC, CST districts hospitals, so that we are able to leverage the technology and we are able to scale that up. Apart from this, Niti Aayog is also working on creating a biobank. A biobank stores the human biological samples along with the radiological images, and then we can use this to really predict about the disease, and we are able to provide personalized advice. We are also implementing a pilot where we want to use AI application to really measure the weight of infants. We are doing the validation of the solution, and the validation is against the gold standards. We want to make sure that there is trust on the technology. At the same time, we are also working, discussing, deliberating how this will get integrated to existing processes of ASHA workers. Niti Aayog also want to not just validate the efficacy of the technology, but also understand the scaling challenges. As the government ecosystem, we want to make sure the technology is scalable. So, in that aspect, we have created a checklist of what all there should be there in the solution so that it is scalable. How it will get integrated to the existing systems, which is very, very important for scaling. We need to define an architecture for that, and how it is supporting, how it is being supported in vernacular languages, how it is taking care of the regional needs and the culture. And at the same time, we also need to think from a cost angle point of view. So here the objective is how we can have technology interventions which are of low cost and high impact. These are the few principles which we are using to really shortlist the AI solutions which can be implemented for the citizen services, and which will be a game changer in this space.
Venkat, anything that you would like to it? Because the mission is to have a national digital health infrastructure. India, in fact, wants to be a $1 trillion digital economy. So that goalpost has moved forward. In terms of what is next, Kuriyan just told us that a lot of the challenges have been addressed, whether it's bridging the technology skill gap that was earlier there, the computing power on the storage side. So we appear to be at an inflection point when it comes to the use cases for AI, its adoption, as well as therefore then the benefits. Anything that you would like to add in healthcare, as well as apart from that, which other sector, apart from consumer as well as healthcare, where we are seeing AI make a big difference?
Yeah, I think from the technology perspective, Xavier covered the current status and the challenges pretty much. The one thing that I would like to add is around the government policies around data, and then adoption of AI in healthcare would be very critical for this to be successful at scale. What I mean by that is, one, of course, the clarity around the private data and policies of healthcare records, etc. That's the first aspect. Second is, government is the major provider of healthcare across the country. You go across villages and The district headquarters, the government healthcare center is the main hospital where the people come for treatment too. If government starts adopting it at the village clinic level, at the district hospital level, then the AI in healthcare will expand at scale. That would be my request to the policymakers.
Kumar, consumer expectations are also evolving very rapidly. Now we've gotten used to Netflix telling us which movie perhaps we would like to watch and what should be our next on our shopping list. You referred to personalization becoming fairly mainstream as well. There will be a lot of work which is done on the back end. But purely in terms of increasing engagement and shaping consumer experiences, what else can be done?
Frankly, a whole lot is getting done, but it's not necessarily done by the same set of retailers at every point of time. So different people are using it differently, and we need to start thinking when somebody is starting something, how the others are adopting. I'll give you an example, and because I don't want to talk about individual companies, there is a very large pharma-based beauty products company that is currently using AI to give you the right kind of lipstick, irrespective of which part of the world you are from, right? Just looking at the screen and doing a few things, and it could just not be just lipstick, it could be multiple items. It's just scanning you, then getting some more details about your skin and giving you all kinds of things that's going to be making it not just visually better, but also from the angle of your skin, etc., from a medical standpoint, better for an individual. I've been to a footwear company that is using AI to be able to get customers get the perfect footwear for them to be able to run the miles that they have to run. So you just wear the first set of footwear you run, it's clocking a whole lot of pressure points of your toes, and within the next 1 hour's time, you are getting a footwear that only you can use because it's been structured for you. So I think every product, I mean, we talked about medical. The fact is, I don't think there is going to be too long before each one of us would be given insurance policies based upon our own health ratings. And that's being done in some form or the other parts of the world. We will also find it happening. You may find that the medical insurance for you today is at X, but because you've done a better health management in 1 year, your insurance policy is actually become cheaper. So I think this is going to be life is going to be changing for each one of us. I mean, our eyewear companies in India are already using AI to be able to give you the perfect eyewear that you need at any point of time, depending upon your mood. Again, their moods also comes into the picture. So I think it's about that. Now, when you look at it, it looks simplistic because you're thinking that I'm going to be getting something which is for me. But there's a whole lot of back end work that goes behind it. There's a work to be able to make that perfect thing for you, design the right thing for you, get the manufacturers to do the right thing for you, use the right material that will come in as a component for this. So it's not as simple as you would think it is. I mean, and imagine this in the wedding scenario. One could go for a wedding and each person would be having a different concept altogether to be able to come in and showcase themselves. So I think things are going to change as a consumer. If you can open your fridge and if AI can refill every item that's there in the fridge, and that's something that people are now experimenting on, you will in the next possibly 2 years time be able to make a smart fridge, tell your nearby kirana what you want, and kirana will supply the whole thing to you with you not even moving a finger. So these are the kind of automation that's going to happen for us as consumers. Healthcare will change, food habits will change, our health styles will change. I think it's beautiful times. We just need to wait for various things to come together. Each retailer, each service provider will experiment it differently, but at some point of time, each one of them will also become the benchmark. That's where things go.
Yes, just one challenge is right now, while we are generating a lot of data, those data exist in silos. So we need a way with, of course, consumer consent that there can be collaboration amongst these data generators to get a cohesive solution to bring in that element of personalization across various streams. Kuriyan, I track technology companies, and I remember this Rajesh Gopinathan, the CEO of TCS, a year and a half, 2 years back, he had said that India is at the cusp of a technology upgrade cycle, and there are three key horizons to that. The first horizon is, which is where the companies were in the last 1 year, is just pure adoption of technology, say migrating to cloud. That is horizon one. Horizon two is when you use the cloud native capabilities. You use AI ML to leverage the best of cloud capabilities and to bring in those efficiencies to generate value, extract maximum value. And Horizon 3 is when you can actually come up with a completely different avenue stream. So here I wanted to get your thoughts in. We've spoken about how it's solving current business problems. There is an increase in efficiency, productivity that we all know. What about new revenue streams? Have we had innovations which have opened up a different avenue stream for existing large companies purely by using AI, ML, as well as these emerging technologies?
So, Reema, and let me give this to you with an example, right? And I'll give you the example that of optimizing first. There's a windmill company that we work with that simply put vibration and noise sensors, which is effectively a fairly sensitive mic and a vibration sensor on all of their windmills. Now, what did it do for them? What it did for them is to be able to look at the sound generated and the vibration of a windmill and look at it across 1,000 windmills that are out there, and to be able to say that if this sound comes, it's probably this gear lever or switch that needs to get changed. What it did is, instead of doing periodic maintenance, they now know exactly what they need to go change. Let me give you the next step of how a new business model can come about. Within Dell, we do a lot of maintenance for all of our customers' products. We looked at all of that data, and what we realized is that you can go and stock materials, or the average failure rates are different for different products. Now, because of which we went and optimized how our people are deployed, how we go and manage inventories, what came out of it was a whole new way of doing maintenance. Customers were happy because they got service faster. Our management was happy because it costs less, and the service engineers were happy because they had more planned routes, and they knew exactly what they needed to do every time. So it was a win-win across the board, and it created a whole new methodology of how service gets delivered. So interesting times, and all of it is coming out of data.
Fascinating, very, very fascinating. Venkat, as operations are becoming more and more connected, data security is increasingly at risk of cyber threats. What recommendations do you have for improving security and enhancing visibility across the value chain?
Yeah, very, very, very pertinent, relevant question, right? So now everything is happening online and remotely. People work from home, learn from home. So what happens is, when everybody is online, the exposed area or the attack surface for a vulnerability becomes larger. So people have to imbibe security as a way of thinking in every step, in every design that they do, whether it is end user or the organization. Now, let's take a case of somebody working from home. In almost every technology use case, the data goes from an endpoint to the cloud via network and then the internet. So you have to have security at each point, whether it is software security or hardware-based security. At the client or laptop side, you need to have the required antivirus security software, and then you need to transmit the data in a secure and encrypted way to the network and then to the internet. And then third, on the cloud operators have established security tools and protocols, and as a user, you need to follow certain best practices so that your applications and data is secure. On top of all that, what we have done is, Reema, on top of the hardware-based security, software-based security, we have enabled secure hardware-enhanced private enclave for data, whether it is a laptop or in the server. So what it does is, it allows you to process the data in a way that the operating system or any other process or any other external threat cannot access that particular area. So your security becomes even more enhanced. So all said and done, end of day, security is a joint responsibility of the users and the organizations, and we need to have it at every point of the data process, both hardware and software-based security.
Venkat, also, one concern as companies embark on this digital transformation journey is understanding what your strategy should be. The end goal is not purely adoption, right? Adoption of cloud or using AI for the sake of AI. It is about ability to extract maximum value. So when you go about, formulating what your digital transformation strategy is, what would be the key things to keep in mind to assess and understand your ROI?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we talk to customers, Reema, we always say, hey, start with the need, right? Just because AI is the buzzword, don't go just implement a simple AI solution, right? So the every transformation starts with the need. The need can be for you to compete better, improve customer experience, right? Or as Xavier was mentioning, optimize the cost. Or Mr. Kumar was mentioning, how do we enhance user experience, right? So in every one of the situation, it is important to have a ROI plan, whether it is increase revenue, increase profit, or even increased a brand reputation in the market, right? Once you define the need and the parameter to measure the success, it's important for you to check whether you have all the tools and processes in place. It's around people, whether you have skilled people to do the project, right? And two, whether you need to have the good ecosystem players, whether it is the OEM players or software players, etc., which are on board, which can help you in the journey. And third, of course, have you convinced your stakeholders and the employees on the need for it? Yeah, effective internal communication to get the organization ready for the digital transformation is also very, very important. These are three things I would say: need, measure the ROI, have the tools, process, people, and ecosystem ready, and fourth, have a good internal organizational communication strategy in place.
So the government has a big role to play when it comes to AI adoption to generally help building a digitally inclusive society, a socially inclusive society. Can you tell us how it has been boosting GDP growth? How can we use it to revive our economy?
So I was mentioning about how we have potential of AI in agriculture. If we are able to really leverage the AI technology, then it will help us to improve farmer incomes, which will add to the GDP. It will help us to deliver quality education. It will help us to improve the learning outcomes. So, if we look from a technology point of view, the idea is how we can use technology for ease of doing business, ease of living, and ease of governance. All this will add to the GDP of the country. It will The AI technologies will be creating new job opportunities, and at the same so we can use AI technology to develop the solution. At the same time, we can use to enhance the skills. So we have more than 4,000 startup in the education sector, and they cut across various segments like K-12 space, entrance exam, higher education, and lifelong learning. If we are able to leverage this technology, then we can enhance the skills and the knowledge of citizens, and productive citizen will definitely add to the GDP. So technology is the enabler. It can enable use cases in various sectors. It can enable the skill set and knowledge of citizens. And once we have enabled that ecosystem, all these moving parts will come together, and that will add to the GDP of the country.
So, as we wrap this discussion, I want to just have a futuristic look. So, tell me, in the next 5 years, what service is going to become ubiquitous, absolutely mainstream, something like online shopping is today, due to the help, with the aid of say artificial intelligence as well as machine learning. Venkat, would you like to go at it first?
Sure, Reema. So I'm going to be a little bold here since you wanted me to be futuristic. So autonomous driving is going to be the mainstream in the next 8 years or so in India. When I say autonomous driving, it doesn't have to be totally driverless driving of a particular car or something, right? It can be like at various levels, like L1, L2, L3, L4. There are various levels where the AI can help the driver with multiple things like lane discipline to accident avoidance, etc. And it's going to change the way people drive. It's going to be extremely helpful for people who are physically challenged. So this is going to change the way the roads are as you see today, you know.
Okay. Kumar, you had earlier referred to how your fridge, your smart fridge, perhaps can speak to your kirana and then automatically refill itself. So that ecosystem perhaps is going to be in place. But your thoughts in the next 5 years?
Yeah, I'll
One
also
minute.
have to, yeah, I'll also try and be bold here. I think that's the only way to do this. Two parts. I think as consumers, it's about what the customer wants, when they want, where they want, is going to be the norm rather than an exception. And that customers are going to demand that they need what they want at the time that they want. And as retailers, they'll have to be ready for that. There's no other way. And you don't have an excuse of telling that there is no technology available. I think this also goes on to the governments. I think we don't really go deep into that part. For example, why should we be facing bad air? Why should we be able to be in a stuck in traffic? Now, why should our various returns not get done on time? I think all this will get much easier and smoother as the government starts adopting AI much more. And as citizens, I think that way of life is going to change for all of us as government start adopting AI and better technologies. That's where things are going to go. I've seen this happen in other parts of the world. One of the most traffic-ridden cities where Alibaba was got changed into one of the most smooth drives ever. And this is the kind of thing that can happen thanks to AI. And we can expect that to happen when governments come into the picture. So at an individual level, speed of thought, at an institutional level, the government will change the way we live and the way we experience life.
Okay, it can happen. Let's hope. Let's hope that it does happen. But Korean, you've got the
Wait,
last word on this.
I'm going to say smart manufacturing, and let me elaborate on that. Today, manpower is a big value addition that comes out of a lot of the developing economies. Um, as we progress down the train of smart manufacturing, manpower is going to be required for a certain set of tasks, and all of the repetitive tasks can be done by machines highly accurately and probably more accurately than manpower. What that's going to do is it's going to reduce the cost of commodities. It's going to change the way we see the world. It's going to change the way commodities are brought out. It's going to improve design. It's going to improve method of production, and it's going to reduce supply chain costs. And net drive down all our costs of living. So I think smart manufacturing is the next big wave that we will see have big impact on our lives.
Sorry, what would be the big bold bet that you would make?
According to me, the AI and blockchain use cases will get mainstream in next 5 years. We will be seeing the democratizing of these technology, personalized learning, personalized advisory in agriculture, predictive medicine will be the futuristic technologies. We would be seeing pan-India adoption of these technologies. At the same time, from a government point of view, we need to ensure that how do we support these technologies. So we need to focus on digital infrastructure. We need to ensure that we have well connected, digitally connected hospitals, schools, and farms. We need to focus on digital literacy, and we need to focus on data protection and privacy. These are the three ecosystem blocks where government institutes should focus on.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much for that. Technology has indeed been a critical driver for so many sectors across enterprises as well as at the government level. We've seen an uptick in applications with the use of AI and ML, intelligent devices, smart manufacturing is on the rise, and of course, we've got a surge in data-centric innovations as well. This has been the most insightful conversation. Thank you once again for joining in.